You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing sales burnout for women, how to hit quota without losing yourself. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. So I want to start today a little differently. I want you to think about the last time that you said the words, "I'm fine," when you absolutely were not. I am not the only one, right? Here's a stat that I just saw, and of course, we know all of this can vary by source, but I think there is a story to be told. 42% of women report feeling burned out often or almost always, and I would venture to guess that number is probably a little bit on the low side, compared to 35% of men. And since 2019, so since before the pandemic, the gap has more than doubled. Women are burning out faster, deeper, and quieter than ever, and nowhere is this more true than in sales. 1/3 of salespeople say they have no work-life balance at all. And I think if you ask the folks specifically in med device, that is definitely higher than 1/3. 43% have struggled with mental health, and this is not rare. As they say, the struggle is real. There's so much work to be done here. And today, I want to do 3 things. I want to tell you the real difference between being tired and being burned out, because they are not the same. And treating them like they are is why so many of us keep making burnout worse by accident. Then I want to walk you through what's actually happening in your nervous system under chronic pressure. And finally, I'm going to give you a 3R tool. You know how I love to give you something to work on. Recognize, regulate, and redesign, which might help you feel a bit more in control. And listen, you know the work I talk about is the work that I have done, or most often still doing at some level. And I remember when I first got into coaching, honestly, it was because I felt like this job totally controlled my life. It totally controlled my calendar. I had no control over my time. And I thought there has to be more to life than this. And I just felt like it was always the job. Now we fast forward. That was 2017. And I'm here, but it's because I recognized and learned all of the coaching material to see that it is not about the job, right? It is about our mindset. It's about our nervous system. It's about us showing up, setting boundaries, saying no, and really being onto ourselves when we start to step into kind of that victim mentality. And it feels so true that we have to do all of the things, but that is not a fact. And I will tell you, when I am ready to leave, it is going to be from an entirely different place. It's going to be because I feel more empowered and powerful and able to do things for reasons that are pulling me, right? So there's a difference when you feel like you're like being pushed out, or if you feel like, okay, there's something else that is just lighting me up. There is a difference. And feeling burned out is not usually from underperforming. It's usually when you're crushing your number, you're cleaning up after everybody else's mess, right? You're leading without title, usually, mentoring the new reps, maybe, doing the emotional labor of every pipeline review, and let's not forget, managing a household. Burnout is the tax on high performers, and it is especially the tax on women. So let's get into talking about tired versus burned out. And I want to draw the line for you because I want you to be able to tell the difference in yourself. Tired is a state. You sleep, you eat, you take a weekend, you feel better. Your battery recharges. That's normal. That's human. That's how bodies work. You had a big week. Your body is asking for rest. You give it rest and you come back. That's beautiful, right? That is a functioning system. Burnout is a trait. Burnout is what happens when your nervous system has been in fight or flight for so long that rest no longer restores you. You take the weekend, you don't feel better. You take the vacation, you're anxious the whole time. This one really lands. I will tell you, early on, Mark used to say he was going to toss my phone in the ocean, right? Or maybe you come back on Monday already empty. You sleep 8 hours and you're still exhausted. You drink the water, you eat the smoothie, you go to the yoga class, and it's like pouring water into a cup with no bottom. That is the signature of burnout. Rest stops working. And at that point, trying to quote unquote rest more is not the solution. It's the trap because you go to rest, you don't feel better, and then you think something is wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system has lost its capacity to downshift. That is a physiological problem. It requires a physiological solution. And I want to give you the 3 stages because I think it helps you locate what it looks like for you and yourself. So, stage 1, let's talk about chronic stress. You're running hot, but you still bounce back after a weekend. Stage 2, burnout. Rest no longer restores, you're running on willpower. And stage 3, full depletion. Willpower is gone, you're numb, right? Maybe you're like crying in the parking lots or maybe fantasizing about quitting and how amazing it's going to be. You are sick more often than not, and you stop doing the things that actually fill you up. In fact, my guess is you might not even know what those things are. Now, this is just to help you locate yourself on the curve, because if you're in stage 1, a few regulation practices and a boundary will walk you back. If you're in stage 2, you might need some structural changes. And if you're in stage 3, maybe you could use help, like maybe a coach or a therapist. Who knows? Maybe it is time to leave. It's just all good to know so that you're making the choice and the decision from an empowered state. And here's where the neuroscience gets really important and really validating. Under pressure, for example, what is actually happening in your body? Your sympathetic nervous system, your, let's say, gas pedal, right, is on. Cortisol is up. Adrenaline is up. Heart rate is up. Pupils are dilated. Digestion is suppressed. You are biologically optimized to handle short-term threat. In fact, there are studies that show that is actually good for us. But this is the kicker. That system is supposed to turn off at the end of the stressor. Like we talked about the saber-toothed tiger last week. Let's say this week it's a lion, okay? The lion leaves, you recover, you eat, you rest, and you come back to baseline. In modern sales, for example, the lion never leaves, right? Quarter 1 ends and then quarter 2 starts before you've even had the weekend. It's the most important quarter in the history of the company, I'm sure. So you hit the number and the number, what happens? It gets raised and then you close the deal and your inbox refills before the commission check even hits your account. Oftentimes, I already have that commission check cashed and spent. Your sympathetic nervous system never gets to turn off. Researchers call this chronic sympathetic activation. Your body never got the memo that the danger passed. And then over months and years, that state starts to produce the very specific cluster of symptoms we call burnout. Fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. Maybe cynicism. Dread on Sunday nights. Maybe a shorter fuse with the people you love. I know I am really in it if I start to have a short fuse with the dog. I mean, Mark, he gets it. It sometimes happens with him. But when it's the dog, there is something to be looked at. And a body that is tired and wired, that is another sign. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe that weird feeling of just being numb and overwhelmed all at the same time. That is not in your head. That is in your body. It's chemistry. And here's the part that matters for women specifically. Women's nervous systems, on average, have a different stress response profile than men's. And there's a piece of research from UCLA called Tend and Befriend, and it's the idea that women under stress are biologically more likely to seek connection and caretake rather than just the pure fight or flight. Add to that the fact that women in sales are doing, let me name it, the office housework, we'll say. So things like the note-taking, the scheduling, the making sure that everyone feels comfortable, the mentoring, the emotional labor, and then going home and doing the second shift there too, right? So the load is bigger, the recovery window is smaller, and the cultural permission to just say, I am freaking maxed out is not the same for us. Of course, we burn out faster. It's really not super mysterious, right? And here's the other thing. When men get stressed and collapse, we often call them exhausted. When women get stressed and collapse, what do we usually call them? Maybe dramatic, a little too sensitive, or maybe not cut out for the role. Maybe you've actually even heard this and internalized it a bit, but I'm here to tell you it is BS. Your body is not exaggerating. The load is real. This is not you being weak. This is you having been asked to carry more with less support most times. And there is a difference. Now, let's do a little thought work. You know, I love thought work. That's where it all started, right? Because I want to name the thought loop that keeps women stuck in burnout, and it can be a sneaky one. Here it is. If I rest, I'll fall behind. That's the thought. And for the high achiever brain, it feels like a fact. It is not a fact. It is a thought. In fact, I would say it's a belief. And here's the difference. A thought is a sentence that you think. A belief is a sentence that you have thought over and over and over, and you believe it to be true. And it's the thought when it's actively ruining your health, your sleep, your relationships. The irony alert is also that it's starting to take over in your performance, because a depleted rep does not close more deals. A depleted rep makes more mistakes, sounds less confident, reads the room worse, and burns out of the industry entirely, let's even say within 18 months, right? I've seen so many amazing women leave, and it really is such a shame because we need more women in sales. We need more women making more money to do more amazing things in the world. And rest is not the enemy of performance. Rest is the infrastructure of performance. You cannot out-hustle a nervous system that has lost its capacity. And the work that we're doing is on building our capacity to receive, because then what happens? We're able to give from a different place. And this is where I want to give you the reframe. Maybe like even tattoo it in your brain, okay? Ready? And when I say tattoo it in your brain, I'm also saying that to myself. Rest is a performance skill. How about that? Recovery is a revenue strategy. Doesn't that sound fun? Recovery is a revenue strategy. And again, I still work on this daily with my coach, myself, and I really try to look for the evidence. There is a lot of evidence out there because there are, for example, top coaches that are working way less than I work and making a ton more. And think about every elite athlete in the world. They prioritize recovery. Olympic sprinters, NBA players, Navy SEALs. The only people pretending that you can perform at the highest level with zero recovery are probably like tired sales leaders that are used to like 2005 PowerPoints, right? We are here to make the change. And let me prove it to you with numbers, because I know the high achiever brain in you needs numbers. Well-rested reps have higher close rates. They hear the tone of a voice that shifts in calls better. They pick up the subtle tells in a buyer's language, and sleep-deprived brains literally cannot read facial expressions and vocal cues as accurately, and there's research on this. So when you skip your sleep to prep one more call, you are actually making yourself worse off. Maybe even economically irrational, right? Might be a little bit dramatic, but you get it. Because what I want is for you to be able to grant yourself the recovery. Your brain is able to come back sharper when you do. You close cleaner. You read the room faster. You write the follow-up that actually lands. And your ROI on rest is enormous. So stop acting like it's a luxury. It is infrastructure. Okay, so let's talk about the tool. Because as I always say, I want you to leave with something to do, because that is where you're going to see change in your life. So there's going to be 3 parts: recognize, regulate, and redesign. Recognize. Before anything else, you have to catch it. I want you to know what your early warning signs are. So for me, mine, for example, my jaw tight. But I have to tell you, oftentimes my jaw is clenched. It is, again, something that I'm working on. So I have to watch it. And let's think about this. If my jaw is not clenched, I'm probably just yapping up a storm. So think about for you what it might be. Maybe it's also reading emails over and over and over. Maybe it's more caffeine. Maybe it's less patience. These are not random things. These are your body sending you a message, and yours will be specific to you. Maybe it's in your neck. Maybe it's in your sleep. Maybe it's in the fact that you've stopped going to the gym, or maybe it's the quiet resentment that's starting to show up. Whatever your signals are, just write them down. Name them. Tell your nervous system, I see you. I got the message. That is recognition. That is step 1. And without recognition, you will just gaslight yourself all the way to maybe even a final breakdown. With recognition, you catch it so much earlier. You need to be able to see it in order to change it. And then number two, regulate. Now we go into the body. And I'm going to give you a short list of some of the tools that I like to use. And you may have heard me talk about them before here. And some maybe even I've seen others prefer. And it's not like 100 items of self care menu that you have to do. And if you don't, you feel worse because you can't get to any of them. Just pick what works for you. Here are a couple. Number one, and I talked about this last week, the physiological sigh. So 2 breaths in through the nose and 1 long exhale through the mouth. 30 seconds. It works wonders. Number 2, how about orienting? Look around the room slowly. Find maybe 5 things that are blue. This tells your brainstem, I am not in danger. I am in my office. It is a literal safety signal. How about number 3? Maybe taking a little bit of cold water and slapping it on your wrist. For some people, that works. It stimulates the nervous vague and it drops the heart rate. How about a walk outside? Maybe 5-10 minutes. Maybe, dare I say, no headphones, just you, the sky, the sun, sunlight, plus movement, plus no input equals a reset that pills cannot buy. Just pick a couple of these or make up what works for you. Trust that you know what is best for you and put them in your calendar like they are a meeting, because they are. They're meetings with your nervous system, and that meeting is the most important one on your calendar. That will decide how you move forward. Number 3, redesign. And this is where we get brave, because if you keep regulating, but you keep walking back into the same structure, you will burn out again. The regulation tools are the short game. The redesign is the long game. So what is one thing, that is draining you chronically that you could either eliminate, automate, delegate, or maybe even renegotiate in the next 30 days? Maybe it's not answering Slack after 7 o'clock. Maybe it's telling your manager that double book meetings are really not working anymore. Maybe it's saying out loud to your partner that you cannot be the only one holding the mental load of the household. Maybe it's hiring a house cleaner once a month. Just one thing, not 10, one. You redesign one pressure point at a time and maybe do it every 30 days. And I will tell you, in a year, your life is unrecognizable. That is how sustainable performance gets built, not in one dramatic decision, but in 12 small acts of redesign. And I want to address the thought that's probably showing up right now, which is, I can't. My team depends on me. My boss will be mad. I can't cut that meeting. I can't delegate that. That thinking is burnout talking. Burnout convinces you that everything you do is essential and nothing can change. It is not true. Almost every boundary I've ever watched a client set that has landed with either great or maybe it's a silent nothing. The catastrophic blowout that we all predict, it's going to be so terrible, that usually doesn't happen. That is your brain forecasting danger that isn't there. So just run it as an experiment. Start small. Say no to one meeting. See what happens. The world usually does not end. And when the world doesn't end, your nervous system gets a little more evidence that you are safe, and your capacity grows from there. All right, one more piece, because regulation in the moment is great. But what is going to rebuild your capacity is a weekly practice. So 3 inputs. Pick a day. I feel like Sunday is a great option because it's right before the week takes off and you're able to just have a little bit of time. So number 1, check in with your body. Where am I on the scale of depleted to full? What does my body need this week? More sleep, a real workout, a day off of the screens? I'm not guessing, I'm asking. And then I'm giving myself that thing that is the non-negotiable meeting. So don't just take a guess, ask, listen to what you have to answer. Your intuition is so important here. Number 2, look at the week ahead. Where are the pressure points? The double book days, the travel, the 7 a.m. calls, and where can you, even if it's by 10%, protect yourself? Maybe it's a small buffer between meetings. Maybe it's some white space in the morning. Maybe it's saying no to the thing that is not essential. Greg McKeown talks about this in his book, Essentialism, and I love his book. It really is all about what we're talking about here, and it's allowing your calendar to be very intentional and not be the thing that runs your nervous system. Number 3, one kindness, one thing this week that is just for you, not earned, not deserved, just yours. So maybe it is the walk. Maybe it's a bath. Maybe it's coffee with a friend. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's nothing. But you put it on the calendar and you protect it as if it's an important with the most important CEO in the world. It is. That's you. You are the CEO of your life, right? And this is how you stay a whole person while running all of the things that you have going on. You schedule yourself back in. You stop leaving yourself on red. That's the weekly practice. Body, calendar, kindness. 10, 15 minutes tops on your Sunday. And I promise you, even if you do one of these to start, it is going to be the highest ROI in that short period of time that you will have for the entire week. And when you do this work, it allows you to be much more intentional with your day-to-day. Okay, so let's just go over this again quickly. Recognize, regulate, and redesign. That's the tool. Tired is a state, burnout is a trait. Rest is a performance skill. Recovery is a revenue strategy. And you are not broken, you are overloaded. And there is a difference. And the way back is not harder. It's just honest with yourself about what your body has been telling you, honest with your calendar, honest with the people around you, and really asking and thinking about what you need. Okay, friends, here's the fun part. I have a burnout signals worksheet for you, and it's really just like an early warning map. So it will look at your specific physical signs, your behavioral signs, your thought patterns, your weekend signals, and we map it out. Because once you know your map, you cannot unsee it, and you catch yourself weeks earlier in every single cycle. So that worksheet is going to be in my newsletter this week. And if you're not already on that list, come and join us. It's so much fun. michelleburkecoaching.com/newsletter. Every single week, I send out one tool that you can actually use. And sometimes it's neuroscience. Maybe it's a study or a book that I love. Sometimes it's just something that I'm working on with my coach. And sometimes it's just something totally fun about Tucker or Mark or something that's going on in the weekend. But there's always a tie-in to allow you the opportunity to do something that will change your week. It's like a reset for you. And it's short and it's real, right? I am always here telling you that I do this work. And of course, it's fun. So go check it out, michelleburkecoaching.com/newsletter. And I really do want you to have a life that does not require you to burn yourself down in order to keep going. We build that here together, 1 week at a time. So head over to michelleburkecoaching.com/podcast and grab it. Okay, friends, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back here next week. But for now, lead your life with intention because it is your time. Make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.